Here's something most people believe. When millions of football fans travel to a World Cup host country, the local economy wins. The hotels fill up. The restaurants are packed. The taxi drivers work double shifts. The city makes money. The country benefits. The World Cup is good for everyone who lives there. It is a reasonable thing to believe. It is what every government that has ever bid for a World Cup has told its citizens. It is what FIFA says in every host nation announcement. It is what the economic impact reports commissioned by the organizing committees confirm. And it is, at best, only partially true. At worst, for certain groups of people in host cities, it is not true at all. Because here is what actually happens when a World Cup comes to town. The airlines raise prices by 300%. The hotels raise prices by 400%. The Airbnb hosts in every neighborhood within 20 miles of a stadium raise their prices by 500%. The official FIFA hospitality packages start at $3,000 per match and go up from there. And a meaningful portion of all of that money, the money being spent by fans who saved for years to make this trip, does not stay in the local economy at all. It flows upward to airline headquarters in Atlanta and Fort Worth, to hotel chains headquartered in Maryland and Virginia, to FIFA's commercial partners in Zurich. The ordinary fan spends somewhere between £5,000 and £7,000 to attend 3 group stage matches. The local restaurant owner, 3 blocks from the stadium, might make good money for 6 weeks. But the people capturing the real financial upside of the World Cup tourism economy are not the people most football fans imagine when they picture a host nation benefiting from the tournament. So who actually wins when the World Cup comes to town? That is exactly what we are breaking down today. I am Chris, and I am on a mission to make passionate sports fans like you just 1% more informed. Because the economics of World Cup fan travel, who sets the prices, who captures the money at every layer of your trip, and who actually benefits from the tourism windfall, are almost the opposite of what the promotional narrative around every World Cup tells you. And once you see how the money actually moves, the next time you watch a host nation's government celebrate winning a World Cup bid, you will be asking very different questions about who that celebration is really for. Let us start with the part of this that hits you first and usually hardest: the flights. Airlines treat the World Cup like any other high-demand event, except almost nothing else generates quite the same level of concentrated travel demand to specific cities across a compressed 6-week window. When tens of millions of fans from dozens of countries are all trying to get to the same set of host cities across the same tournament period, the basic economics of supply and demand do the rest. Prices go up, significantly. And they go up in a way that is perfectly rational from the airline's perspective and deeply frustrating from the fan's perspective. But there is a layer to this, beyond simple supply and demand, that most fans never fully think through: route monopolies. Not every major airline flies directly between every World Cup fan's home city and every host venue. If you're flying from a smaller European market, the Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Belgium, to a host city like Seattle or Kansas City, your route options are limited. You may have 1 or 2 realistic airline choices for a direct or one-stop service. And when choice is limited, pricing power shifts entirely to the carrier. There is no meaningful competitive pressure forcing prices down because the alternatives are either inconvenient connections adding 4 to 6 hours to a journey or significantly more expensive options through a hub. The airline prices for what the market will bear. And during a World Cup, the market bears a great deal. In 2022, flights to Doha from major European hubs increased in price by anywhere between 200 and 400% compared to equivalent non-tournament periods in the same month. Some fans traveling from South America to Qatar reported flight costs that exceeded the total value of the match tickets themselves. Fans from Australia, Japan, and South Korea, where the tournament had enormous cultural significance, faced some of the most aggressive pricing simply because of the geography involved and the limited competition on long-haul Pacific routes. This is not price gouging in any illegal or regulatory sense. It is dynamic pricing operating in a market with artificially concentrated demand and structurally limited supply. The airlines are doing exactly what the market allows them to do. They are doing what every rational commercial actor in their position would do. The fans' frustration is entirely understandable. The airline's behavior is entirely logical. Both things are true at the same time. For 2026, the picture is more complicated and in some ways more interesting than any previous tournament. The United States is 3 countries in one event for the first time. 60 matches across 16 American host cities, with additional fixtures in Canada and Mexico. Fans following their team may need to travel between host cities mid-tournament if their national team progresses through the knockout round. A fan following Argentina from the group stage through a potential quarterfinal and semifinal run could theoretically need domestic flights between New York, Miami, Dallas, and Los Angeles across a 4-week period. Each of those domestic legs is another price point, another dynamic pricing window, another opportunity for an airline to capture value from a captive, time-sensitive, emotionally committed traveler who has no real alternative and every reason to book, regardless of price. American domestic aviation is one of the most competitively priced short-haul markets in the world under normal conditions. Delta, United, American Airlines, and Southwest compete aggressively on the major trunk routes that connect the World Cup host cities. But during the tournament, that competitive pressure softens considerably because the demand surge affects all carriers simultaneously. When every airline is full on every route to every host city on every match day, there is no incentive for any individual carrier to compete on price. The floor rises for everyone at the same time. The consumer has nowhere else to go. Now let us talk about accommodation. Because the flight is expensive, but the hotel is where the story gets genuinely extraordinary. Host cities for the 2026 World Cup include New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Dallas, Seattle, San Francisco, Kansas City, Houston, Philadelphia, Boston, Vancouver, and Guadalajara. These are not modest tourism destinations scrambling to fill hotel beds during a tournament the way Qatar was in 2022. These are some of the most visited, most commercially sophisticated, most hotel-dense cities in the entire world. New York City alone has over 100,000 hotel rooms. Los Angeles has 60,000. Miami has 40,000. And still, the pricing impact during the World Cup window is extraordinary. During Qatar 2022, hotel prices in Doha during the tournament window increased by between 300 and 500% compared to the same period in previous years. A room that cost $100 per night in November 2021 cost between $400 and $600 per night in November 2022. Qatar had a structurally limited hotel stock to begin with, which amplified the surge dramatically. But the mechanism is universal, and it will operate just as powerfully in American cities despite their much larger total accommodation base. The reason is not simply supply and demand at the city level, it is demand concentration at the neighborhood level. Fans do not want to stay anywhere in New York. They want to stay in Manhattan or close to it, near the subway lines that connect to transport to MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, near the atmosphere and the fan zones and the bars screening the other matches. The premium, centrally located hotel stock fills first and at the highest prices. What remains is either budget accommodation far from the action or premium accommodation that has moved sharply upward in price because the market has cleared everything else. Hotels use the same dynamic pricing technology that airlines pioneered. Revenue management systems that adjust room rates in real time based on remaining inventory, booking pace, competitor pricing, and forward demand signals pulled from search data and booking platform activity. During a World Cup, these systems run at maximum sensitivity. The moment booking pace accelerates, and the moment a country qualifies, the moment a fixture schedule is published, the moment a national team progresses through a round, rates adjust upward immediately and automatically. The fan who hesitates pays the price of their hesitation directly. The fan who books early locks in a lower rate, but carries months of non-refundable financial commitment before a ball has been kicked. There is a third accommodation layer that most coverage of World Cup travel economics misses almost entirely: the short-term rental market. Airbnb, VRBO, and equivalent platforms expand the effective accommodation supply in host cities considerably beyond the traditional hotel stock. But they also concentrate the pricing upside in the hands of individual property owners, rather than hotel chains. And they do so without any of the regulatory constraints or brand reputation considerations that govern hotel pricing behavior. During major events, short-term rental prices in host cities follow exactly the same surge pattern as hotels, and sometimes more aggressively. A two-bedroom apartment in central Miami that lists for $200 a night in January will list for $800 to $1,200 a night during World Cup match days in that city. The platform takes its service fee, typically between 10 and 15% of the booking value. The host takes the remainder. The fan pays the entire bill. And unlike a hotel chain with a corporate complaints process, an individual Airbnb host who has priced their property at 4 times its normal rate has no institutional incentive to moderate their pricing based on anything other than what the platform's algorithm suggests the market will support. Now let us talk about something that sits above all of this in the commercial hierarchy: the official hospitality ecosystem that FIFA and local organizing committees build around the tournament. Because the travel and accommodation costs we have described are the open market version of attending the World Cup, the official hospitality version is something else entirely, and understanding it explains a great deal about where the real money in World Cup fan economics actually flows. FIFA operates a tiered official hospitality program for every World Cup that packages match tickets, premium seating, pre-match entertainment, food and beverage, and transport into bundled hospitality products. These products are sold at prices that bear almost no relationship to the face value of the individual components, and are not primarily designed for ordinary football fans. The entry-level official hospitality packages for 2026 World Cup group stage matches were listed at prices starting above $3,000 per person per match. Premium packages for knockout stage fixtures in the later rounds reached above $20,000 per person for a single match. The final itself, if you want the official FIFA hospitality experience, is priced at a level that puts it firmly in the category of products that corporate entertainment budgets purchase, not personal spending decisions, because that is precisely who buys them. These packages are sold overwhelmingly to corporate clients, companies entertaining customers, rewarding high-performing employees, or building relationships with commercial partners in a premium branded environment. The corporate sports hospitality market globally is worth over $40 billion annually by most industry estimates, and the World Cup is its single most valuable event. Every major professional services firm, every bank, every technology company with a substantial client entertainment budget is a potential buyer of World Cup hospitality packages. FIFA knows this. The pricing reflects it. What this means practically, and this is where the fan experience and the commercial reality intersect most visibly, is that a meaningful and growing proportion of the seats inside every World Cup stadium are occupied by people whose primary motivation for being there is not football. They are there because their company bought a package. They will watch the match, certainly. But their engagement with what is happening on the pitch, the noise they generate, the atmosphere they create, the emotional energy that makes a World Cup stadium what it is fundamentally different from the fan who saved for 2 years, booked a year in advance, and crossed an ocean to be in that seat. So we have airline pricing capturing the fans' travel spend, hotel and short-term rental pricing capturing their accommodation spend, official hospitality capturing the premium end of the attendance market. Now let us talk about what happens at the level of the host city economy itself, the part that gets called the tourism windfall. The argument for hosting the World Cup, made repeatedly by host nations and encouraged loudly by FIFA in every bidding cycle, is that the tournament generates an enormous inflow of tourist spending that benefits the local economy broadly. Fans spending on restaurants, local bars, taxis, retail, cultural experiences, all of it flowing into the host city economy, generating jobs, tax revenue, and long-term tourism profile enhancement that extends well beyond the 6 weeks of the tournament itself. The reality is meaningfully more complicated than that argument suggests. And the academic research on major sporting event tourism windfalls is considerably more skeptical than the promotional materials imply. Qatar received approximately 1.5 million visitors during the 2022 World Cup period. That sounds like a significant tourism injection. But Qatar's annual pre-tournament tourism target was 6 million visitors per year. The World Cup brought roughly a quarter of a full year's visitor target into a 6-week window. After the tournament, the Qatar Tourism Authority reported that visitor numbers in the subsequent year exceeded pre-World Cup baselines. But independent economic analysis noted that the infrastructure built for the tournament, the stadiums, the hotels, the metro system, was operating well below capacity within months of the final whistle, raising serious questions about the long-term financial return on a $220 billion infrastructure investment. The United States, Canada, and Mexico present a completely different calculation. These are among the most established, most visited tourism destinations in the world. The World Cup is not putting Miami or Los Angeles on the global tourism map. They are already firmly on it. What the tournament delivers for these cities is a concentrated revenue spike across a 6-week window, capturing spend from fans who would not otherwise have visited during that specific period. The New York metropolitan area alone is projected to generate over $400 million in direct tourist spending during World Cup matches played at MetLife Stadium. Los Angeles, Miami, and Dallas each project similar or larger figures, depending on the number of high-profile matches hosted in each city. The combined direct tourism economic impact of the 2026 World Cup across all 3 host nations has been estimated at between $4 and $6 billion in direct fan spend. But a significant and consistently underreported portion of that spend does not stay in the local economy in the way that tourism promotional material implies. Hotel chains remit their profits to corporate headquarters in other states or other countries. Airline revenues flow to carrier headquarters in Atlanta, Fort Worth, and Chicago. Food and beverage chains distribute profits nationally. The local economy captures a real but partial share of the total tourist spend, the share that flows to genuinely local businesses, local transport operators, local independent restaurants, and entertainment venues. There's also the displacement effect that economists flag consistently around every major sporting event. When a city hosts World Cup matches, regular tourists who would otherwise have visited during that window often choose to go elsewhere. The prices are higher. The city is more crowded and more chaotic. The hotel availability at reasonable prices has been consumed. The net tourism gain is smaller than the gross fan arrival numbers suggest, because a portion of the apparent gain is simply the replacement of regular tourist spend with World Cup fan spend rather than a genuine addition on top. Before we close, I want to give you the number that I think best captures what the 2026 World Cup fan travel economy actually represents in full. FIFA projects that approximately 5 million fans will travel internationally to attend matches across the tournament. The average international visitor to a major American city spends approximately $3,000 across a 10-day stay when accommodation, flights from within the Americas, food, transport, and entertainment are included. For fans traveling from Europe or further, that number is considerably higher, closer to $5,000 to $7,000 when long-haul flights are factored in. 5 million visiting fans at an average of $4,000 each in total trip spend, and that is a conservative blended estimate across all origin markets, is $20 billion of fan travel spend across the tournament window. $20 billion. Generated entirely because those fans love football enough to cross oceans, empty savings accounts, and spend money they probably cannot fully afford to watch their national team play in the biggest tournament in the world. The airlines capture a share of it. The hotels and Airbnb hosts capture a share. FIFA's hospitality program captures its share. The local economies capture their partial share. And the fan, the person whose passion and loyalty and willingness to spend created the entire commercial opportunity in the first place, absorbs every layer of cost the whole way down. I am Chris. Thank you for watching.